Hello, and welcome to the Political Pour Up Podcast. I'm Sue.
I'm Jazz.
And I'm Jen.
And we are three friends who love to just talk about politics. And usually we have a drink while we do it. Like, we really can't shut up about politics.
No, we can't.
It's kind of annoying for our other friends.
A little bit, yeah.
But we like it. So
They'll be okay.
So yeah, y'all know there's an election coming up.
Oh, very much so.
Yes, a very exciting one.
And we're excited, but also a little terrified.
Yes. The stakes are high.
It's very mixed emotions over here. That's why we decided to come together and take the conversations that we have in our living rooms, at the bar, on the group chat, on FaceTime, and bring them to anyone who wants to listen.
That's right.
Here we are. And each week we're going to come together and discuss the headlines of the week, you know, the highs, the lows.
The hell no.
The WTFs.
Because when they go low, what do Michelle say? I don't know.
That ain't me. I'm not Michelle.
I'll meet you in hell. You should take the high road.
You know, pick your battles. And I think we picked a good one this time.
This is a good one.
So election day is around the corner, and we are just doing all we can to make sure that facts and democracy prevail. In November, we're all hoping.
I mean, I like democracy thus far.
I hear it's pretty good. I mean,
it beats the alternatives.
All of them. I've heard some cases from the other. I'm like, are you sure about that?
Yeah. And let's not play with it. Like, you know.
I mean, I'm a historical documentaries person, so I just feel like I've seen a lot of this in the documentaries that focus on the 1910s and 1930s. That's all I'm going to say. Let's not try to relive history.
Right. So,
in addition to the political content in our comments, each week we will also be featuring our cocktail of the week. What are we sipping on today?
Well, I have put together a light, refreshing cocktail because I love me a Tom Collins. I am not a 60-year-old white man, but I do love a Tom Collins. And because I think Tim Walz is a great Minnesotan, and I put together this little refreshing cocktail that I call a Tim Collins because it's purple.
That's right.
It's purple for Minnesota.
That's right.
It's got the Empress purple gin. I'm not sure what makes it purple, but
I wonder if it's
a
pea.
really pretty color. Yeah, is it the pea flower?
I think pea flower makes stuff purple.
Yeah, we'll go with that. It's pretty good. You can find it in most stores.
If we add citrus, if it changes colors, it's pea flower.
Well, I did add sour mix, so lemon and lime, and it's still slightly purple. And yeah, just topped off with a little club soda. That's all you need. It's transitioning into fall now, so it's more of a spring summer drink. But I'll drink anything year round. So
I mean, to get through the week with these headlines and things, I think,
the weeks be stressful.
So this is the news you can booze or use.
Right. Correct.
Whichever. So who are we? We're new to this podcast thing. I'm Sue. So I'm a Black woman. I am a millennial. I won't say I'm an elder millennial because I don't think that would be accurate. But I'm definitely not on the cusp.
To labels.
Yeah, because they have a rude one for us, I think.
I mean, well, that's okay.
Geriatric.
Okay. See, no, that's rude.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't like how everything at this stage in life is being labeled with geriatric in front of it. It just doesn't feel so great. But
yes. Well, the first time I was referred to as geriatric anything was during my pregnancy for my now 4-year-old. So, and that was only 4 years.
I'm going to be older than you.
And I was like, I was 31 at the time. So yeah, you do the math. But that was inappropriate.
40.
I should have reported.
Society is unkind, especially to women.
So I am a mom. I am a lawyer. I work in policy in the Washington, D.C. area, and I love it. Even when I wasn't working in policy, politics was my jam, and it really, again, annoyed people who wanted nothing to do with politics on an everyday basis. So I am very used to talking to people, especially in a bar. I used to work in bars and restaurants, and I would love to get in drink conversations People at the bar, it's just the funniest thing. But you make really good friends. It's like, I think nowadays the polarization of just this whole moment is like really tearing people apart. But pre 2015, I was
pre-alternative facts.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're gonna
alternative facts. Now you can't really talk to people with an open mind, and like you can at the end of the day just sit there and say, "Oh, we don't agree, but at least I can have a drink with you."
Right.
And now it feels like that is kind of gone, which I mean,
to some extent understandable, because we cannot agree on like how much you think you should pay in taxes, but we probably can't agree on like who we think is a human.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or who deserves,
and that is
period. So, I think that also is a different thing. And things have taken a much more like villainous.
Them be fighting words. So yeah, that's me. Go ahead, Jazz.
Well,
why don't you tell us about you?
I'm a Sagittarius. No, but I am, and I'm wonderful, and that's how you will get to know me, because those two things are synonymous. So get used to it. But I am Afro-Latino. I am from Washington, D.C., with my family, most of which either coming from North Carolina, Florida, or Cuba. So that's kind of my background. I went to DCPS, which gave me a lot of experiences that I don't think I would have gotten in a lot of other places, allowed me to be exposed to a lot of things, and just the overall environment and culture of the city, and being exposed to just political actions, protests, I think kind of shaped me to like part of the person who I am. Like, I'm not a politics all the time person, but I'll tell you exactly how I feel about things.
Oh, yeah.
I also feel like I was raised in a way where we talked about things, we asked questions. So that's just how I go about operating in life. I was that annoying girl in college who would raise her hand and be like, actually, you're wrong because blah, 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 blah. And I was right. So it worked out for me most times. And now I'm just really excited to kind of get a chance to take the conversations that we have amongst each other and share them with others. Because as we've said before, we know based on the things that we see, we're not the only people that feel the way that we do. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just, this will be a good chance for us to really engage in a larger community setting, because that's really what we're about. We're a friendship community that's been with each other for quite some time since college. And we're just looking to expand that and really engage people in the conversation and hopefully change the tide, be part of the solution as opposed to the problem. And Miss Jen.
Wow.
Hey, Jen.
How do I follow those two intros? Okay, I'm Jen.
Because you're awesome.
I'm a Virgo. Just kidding. Well, I am. But so let's see. I'm a mom of 2 little girls that I'm very proud of. They drive me crazy, but I'm proud.
Cool, child.
Let's see. I like to say I do a lot of things. I'm multifaceted. I'm a co-founder of a wedding and event planning business where I find my passion in design and kind of bringing people's most precious and sacred moments to life. I'm also a design and real estate enthusiast, and I have a background in the legal industry. So I guess you could say I'm very well-rounded. I've just always been passionate about politics. So anyone who's known me since college just knows that I've been very passionate about activism, fighting for our rights, equalities, things like that, and just doing my little part to advance us forward.
Not your big part.
My big part.
Every effort is a big piece in this puzzle of what makes democracy really work. Mm-hmm. It takes all of those pieces to make that big movement happen. Yeah, and I really think that that's where we came together. Like, we were friends before we knew each other, being on campus.
Yes.
And we all attended college at the Atlanta University Center. HBCUs, and we're very proud HBCU graduates. And that's where we kind of developed this common interest in being engaged in the political process and what it means for us and our communities and our futures. I know Jen and I, in particular, on our campus, we were very engaged in the 2008 presidential election. And that was just something that was really emotional, and it felt very purposeful in the moment to be a part of. And I know my parents were very proud. I'm sure that your parents were very proud as well in seeing that. I used to hear them talk about, oh, we'll never see a Black president in our lifetime.
Right.
You know, to just even have you say a small piece of the puzzle, but that was monumental. What happened in Georgia that year, Obama didn't end up winning Georgia, but that Senate race was really important because that went into a runoff, which they thought that they were going to win it just straight out. And the Republican candidate did end up winning, but it just goes to show. And now look at what we have now: two senators from Georgia, Democratic senators from Georgia, and I think that was that's 15 years ago. It's like, oh, we're coming up on our 15-year college reunion. We're all transparent here.
We're here. Nobody. You already called us geriatric. We don't need to go any further.
We're here. I'm glad I'm not 20 anymore. I don't know about y'all, but
but geriatric.
But
I didn't say it. That's what they say.
So I think that's an important part of why we feel so motivated in this moment, because of course they've been very important. Every election is important. Anytime you're able to participate in the democratic process, especially for Black and brown and indigenous people and women, that wasn't always the case. You did not always have that opportunity to even go to the voting booth and cast a ballot for how you wanted the country to be reflected. So I think that it's an opportunity to look at this moment and see how far we've come since we first started, really engaging as college students, and seeing the younger generation is very unique in doing their own type of engagement and activism, which I think is very encouraging. But there's also new threats that I don't think any of us have been prepared for, especially with the misinformation.
That we are not prepared for.
So I think that's what just brings us all to this moment. And I'm so excited to be in it with y'all again. We're going on 20 years of friendship, and it's just such an awesome opportunity to.
I love it when she drops the years.
The numbers.
No, I love it.
Okay.
I want you to tell them when we graduated from
high school. They can do math. So we'll have this conversation on a weekly basis. We'll have episodes every Tuesday that will encompass the wildfire of a week that occurred leading up to that. And hopefully we can give people information that they didn't learn before, maybe dispel some misinformation or disinformation that they had heard on social media, or even mainstream media. Sometimes it's not always fact checking, but we'll do our best to highlight all of the ways that you can get engaged in the process, if that's what you want to do, or if you just want to show up on election day.
You should definitely show up on election day.
I just wanted to highlight too for people, because obviously this is our first episode. What brought us together was we needed a space, right? Like you said, sometimes you could be that annoying friend that likes to talk about politics in a room with no one who really likes to talk about politics.
That's usually me.
Politics causes a lot of people, a wide range of feelings and emotions. And for us, we needed some place to come. Like, it was a group chat that was very lively, and it was just like, can we just get together and just kind of like decompress?
This is one of those things that made it out the group chat, y'all.
It made it out the group chat. Thanks. And so it just feels good to also be in a room where you could just kind of be a little candid about your feelings about what's happened in the week. And, also I love it too, because when we come together, there's always something one of us hasn't heard or hasn't seen, or because it just moves so fast throughout the week. So I love that this provides that space for people.
I think part of what motivated me is that I do believe that you should vote all the time. But I think that if there was ever a dire time where voting was not to be taken as lightly as maybe some of the other times people have in life, it would be now. Anybody who tells you that you don't have to vote and keeps being like, you know what, well, they need your vote. And then you notice that votes are being suppressed all over.
Yes.
This is why years ago when people were telling me that their vote don't matter, I was like, some of you really don't know where those comments and ideals originate from. And you're doing the work of the people who are trying to undo you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now we'll move on to our sip and scroll segment. Because Jasmine be on the gram. I don't know. Are you on TikTok too? I know you be on the gram. Okay, cool.
Correction.
So,
because I don't want somebody to like do some digging. Jasmine made a TikTok by the suggestion of one of my friends. Jasmine maybe has logged on TikTok once. It seemed overwhelming. So usually I just kind of see what's happening on the gram. So this week on social media, something that was surprising to me was that I feel like I saw a couple more posts that discuss this as opposed to what was covered in mainstream media, which is about the campaign office in Arizona that was hit by gunfire for Kamala Harris. This to me seemed wildly outrageous that it did not receive the type of coverage that it should have, just solely based on the actual event at which it is. Also, the irony is not on me that this came immediately after Elon Musk decided to get on X, which I also refuse to get on because I refuse to put money in the pockets of people like that. To get on there and question why nobody had tried to attempt to assassinate her, which is a wild thing.
that was
It's just a wild.
That was very much so stand back and stand by.
I was just about to say that. It was very much a stand back and stand by.
Furthermore, not only do you want to put this woman's life in danger, but you don't care who works there. Because the people who run in the campaign office,
of course, she may or may. The chances that she was there,
not going to be there.
Exactly.
it's the overall vitriol that is so openly spewed without being checked. I don't understand how someone who is threatening government officials has government contracts still. They should have put a pause on all of those immediately.
Agreed.
I'm just saying.
It's rather infuriating.
Very much so.
It was not covered in the news whatsoever.
It sure wasn't.
No, and
when I got to see that ear and the little tissue.
I mean, it's all very much so tired. People say threatening things.
The tissue off and the gauze on, gauze off.
Yeah, and historically threatening things. And when they're called on it, like, I was joking. I kid, I play.
Right.
No, that's not really how that works.
It's the left, the vitriol from the left that is causing all of this political violence.
Well,
right. That's just...
I think we all know what that is. It's called, I'm going to play victim. It's the Karen of the entire Republican Party. I'm wrong. And when you say something about me doing something that is wrong, I'm going to double down and cry and tell you why I'm the victim, because now you telling me that I'm wrong hurts my feelings. So you must be the worst person, which makes no sense. But that is literally to me, the overall temperament of what we get from a lot of people on that side.
I agree.
Outside of the ones who have found their sanity and left the cult and decided to actually preserve the democracy that they say that they care so much about. I do shout out them, but the other ones, I don't know. Speaking a full sentence, sometimes I wonder if you can understand the Constitution in which you're supposed to be protected. But that's just, my thoughts. Also, what I wanted to cover, I guess in this week's other extremely racist rhetoric, that's how I'll call it. We have an actual sitting representative deciding to, I don't even know if I want to actually read the tweet. There's no non-vile words in it. But, he was
saying disparaging things about...
Well, let's call him out by name. Let's put a name on a thing.
Okay.
It's Clay Higgins.
Who is Clay Higgins, Jazz?
Someone who clearly should not be in office.
Lord have mercy.
One of our elected representatives. So that means that you need to pay attention.
What state is he from again?
It might surprise you that he is from Louisiana.
But the tweet focused on Haitians. Again, this time just Haitians in general. Here legally, illegally, descendants of, just Haitians. Calling them wild, making claims about pets, cults, gangsters, voodoo. Okay, well, let me just read it.
Just read it.
Yeah.
Let's just read it for people who missed it.
And just so we know the tone in which he's starting off with, it begins with an LOL. These Haitians are wild. Eating pets, voodoo, nastiest country in the Western Hemisphere, cults, slapstick gangsters. But damned if they don't feel all sophisticated now, filing charges against our president and VP. these thugs better get their mind right and get their asses out of our country before January 20th. So when I heard that, and he only took it down later after being called out upon it. But I mean, what's the point of taking it down? We know how you feel. The damage already been done.
Right. Do you want to know another fun fact about Clay Higgins?
Yes. Hit us.
Who he voted for governor of Louisiana when he ran? David Duke.
Of course.
I'm sure they probably gonna.
Of course.
I'm sure they're probably gonna. I don't know if you ever be candlelit dinners, but I'm sure something's lit.
David Duke is a grand wizard of the KKK and a certainly racist politician.
From coming on stuff like Ricky Lake and stuff back in the day when I used to watch those shows as a kid.
Not Ricky Lake.
Yeah, because remember, at that time, all of the talk shows were inviting like all types of extremists and having all those extreme shows until Jenny Jones got that whole show scenario. So it wasn't until people got hurt that they started like, maybe we shouldn't play around in these fields of things that are very touchy. But yeah, so I think just within that tweet, there were so many vile things that were said that were just outrageous. Not to mention, I find it odd that recently we've heard about, well, you know, another racist show about Black people feeling all uppity and like,
I missed that one.
Yeah,
Who said that?
yeah.
You didn't,
Who said that?
Well, I think that's pretty much the undertone of, but be damned if they don't feel all sophisticated now.
It also goes to the understanding of how they feel about our
It goes back
presidential candidate.
He was the first uppity Negro, according to them, that they saw, and they had no problem trying to put him in his place every chance they got.
And then
So much saying government won't function if we won't pass anything because we are so mad that a person of color is in a place higher than I am. I'll burn it all
people
down.
need to be humble. Like what Sarah Huckabee Sanders
I was just gonna say, it's another.
She was with Trump at one of his recent rallies. Like, I'm a mom of
My kids
biological
keep
children,
humble.
so they keep me humble.
She don't seem to have much humility.
But why do women have to be humble? That's what annoyed me.
Well, and that's when Doug came in. So for to the rescue. I love me some Doug Himmelhoff because he came on social, I think it was on social media. First of all, why do we
need to keep women humble?
Need to, and specifically, you're saying this to a black woman.
Well, white women have no problem sometimes of certain
when a Karen there's nothing humble about a Karen, okay?
It's just the most mediocre.
I think also just the last, before we move on from this, the last part that I really took umbrage with is that telling people they better get their asses together by January 20th. So is this another? Because last time we all talked about January 6th, we realized very soon what that meant. So what's happening on January 20th, y'all guys? I think that when you start making threats to entire groups of people in positions of power, you might need to be investigated and removed.
Agreed. 200%.
And I'm pretty sure that's exactly why a motion was brought up to censure him.
Absolutely.
By the Congressional Black Caucus chair. Because it is absolutely vile.
Exactly. No, our elected officials absolutely should not be able to make those sort of threats.
Also, again, people, keep in mind, it's not just presidential elections coming up. There are plenty of other elections coming up.
Yes.
Which means that you need to pay attention to who's down ballot because these people who say these vile things, you voted in.
Yes. And
voted in more than once.
Up for election because all U.S. members of the House are up for re-election this year. And a handful of senators. So we'll be going into that in a future episode. But I mean,
I understand it is frightening and I understand all the tactics that are being implemented throughout, but people of color, poor people, impoverished people, rural people, people who don't really feel seen, this is your time to show up and get better people in office who actually think something of you and who work toward getting things done in your community and not just getting your vote and then getting money.
Vote for
and
your
doing
interests.
Nothing.
Vote for your interests and not.
And when we say your interests,
racism.
We don't mean for people who make a lot more money than you do, which you will never attain, who tell you that if you vote for this, you'll get a bigger share of the things that they're trying to cut once they get rid of all the other undesirables.
Think about all of the
it's never happened since the beginning
the trickle down
of indentured servitude.
Well,
it trickled down since indentured servitude.
Who's been trickle? I haven't received a trickle.
For white people in the country. rich white people have been taking advantage of y'all for a very long time.
Well,
it
yeah,
hasn't
that's a
gotten
part
you
of the
anywhere
strategy.
since before the actual founding of the country.
That's the part of the strategy.
So, I'm just saying, poor people's movement actually got a lot of things done because people were together.
Well, just to wrap it up with the cute little anecdote from social media. This was a few weeks old, but if you've ever had to do this to get your lotion out, you ain't got to worry about their tax plan or their economic
If you have
policy.
laminate countertops.
It's not for you. It's not for you. So if you ever had to hit this,
if you don't have someone to go to the store to do your shopping for you, that's not Instacart or Uber Eats.
I'll say now. Here's the car. Here's the Walmart Plus.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
If you put gas in your
Don't make me feel
car,
uppity.
correct.
this is not the tax plan for you.
Okay, but what if you live in Jersey?
Well,
I'm just saying. If you have to drive yourself around, if there's not a hired person that opens the door for you, this is not the tax plan that you are concerned about. Even if you are a business owner, Trump's tax plan is not the tax plan.
It's not.
It's that they are concerned. I'm just saying, it's not about if you have to tap lotion. If you are making up to a couple $100,000 a year, this still is not the tax program for you. It's all I'm saying.
All right. So, well, thank you, Jazz. It's always good to know what's happening in these social media streets.
I'm telling you.
It's a mess. It's really a mess. People need to go back inside as opposed to being
I didn't do
outside.
a lot of clapping back this week, though. I did a good one a couple weeks ago.
you got to conserve your energy, sis.
Girl, sometimes I just kind of scroll.
You gotta live the fight of the day.
off.
Pick your battle. So next, we're going to go into our headline Hangover because I know Jen has been painstakingly going through the headlines, and oh God,
Well, if
what
y'all
a
know
week!
anything about me, I keep MSNBC on as background noise all the time. My husband is thoroughly annoyed.
Really?
And then my daughter will come in the room like, oh God, you're watching this again.
Oh, same.
I just have to keep it on because I just like to know what's going on in the world.
There'll come a day she'll join you.
But I guess where do we start with the headlines? Because so much has happened. At the beginning of the week, I was struck by Trump's comment at this Pennsylvania rally. Of course, amongst some of the things he said, one of the things that made headlines was how he purported to be basically the protector of women, and women won't have to worry.
Oh my God.
We'll be safe under him. He'll be our protector. He hopes he lets
You
us.
said predator?
Facts. No,
Oh, I'm
protector.
sorry.
Protect, right.
I just wasn't hearing right.
Grab them by because that's what they'll let us do.
I mean,
or
E-Jean just told us.
Oh my God.
E-Jean told us.
And a bunch of other.
And a bunch of
Jeez,
others.
Lord. The fact that those words actually came out of his mouth, like he said some pretty incorrect things over the course of his life, but more recently his political life. But
if you don't see a problem with doing that, that explains how you end up in the courts he ended up in. Because clearly he thinks it's appropriate.
Yeah,
women.
So many things. And my initial reaction was just ill.
Yeah.
Ill. I couldn't think of
somebody who wants to be
a worse person.
He's just trying to find his way into women's vaginas every which way he can, isn't he? He just wants to be there, just every which way he can.
Oh Lord,
I have never met a diligent GYN of that nature.
On
He
a more
just wants to be there.
Policy-centered note, it's just and we're literally seeing headlines about women dying or suffering from lifelong health complications because of your own policy and being so proud.
Did their names, did Amber Nicole Thurman or Candy Miller's names come up during that rally?
Absolutely not.
I didn't take the time to actually watch.
Not.
But of course not.
Absolutely
of course
not.
not.
I find it hard
because
to believe.
accountability would have been just way too much.
Well, then if you say
Marjorie Taylor Greene, then she had the nerve to say that one of the women from Georgia, she did not die because of LACA. Yes. She died because of the abortion pill. And
I know.
No, she died.
That is their talking point.
Yeah. So it's laughable.
All the same people that tell you guns don't kill people. People kill people. And I'm like, guns don't fire themselves.
Correct.
Yeah. No,
Nor
but
do they aim themselves. Like, it's just...
Unfortunately, they
don't load themselves. None of those things is how guns work. But, it's here.
That's their go-to now.
That was one. So then...
I mean, deny, deflect. Didn't happen.
Okay.
So then, up a little bit ways up the 95 corridor in New York City, we have Eric Adams being indicted.
I was thinking you were going to bring that up. Yeah, what? I'm sorry. I mean,
I feel like the FBI came up there saying, I need you,
I was like, that. Like, the feds are not playing games right now. They're just knocking on doors and
how's your
kids, how's your wife?
I think if there's anything we're learning is that clearly New York will have a problem prosecuting billionaires, ex-presidents, mayors.
And I know this is not a Letitia James thing because it's a federal charge. It's like just New York wants all the smoke.
No, you want all the smoke.
You are really talking
cleaning up people in New York. Trust me.
That part.
Okay. Yeah. So Mayor Adams is being indicted, and I think
there's a very promising progressive that might replace him.
Yes.
If he steps down or is, removed.
I mean, no. Everybody else felt about Eric Adams, but I wasn't an Eric Adams fan. I mean, it's like what? It's actually like watching. One of my favorite things to do when I was a kid was like try to stack up cards and dominoes and like make them like make a pattern and knock them down.
Yeah.
It was like watching that.
Oh yeah. It's like
looking
down the crime family.
Honestly, though. New York don't want no problem. They really don't want to be seen as a city of corrupt people. I don't think any city would.
That would not be the first time.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I think
Brennan's with it, which is why I think they're trying to distance it now.
That type of investigation, I think New York is the one state that is very well versed between New York and Illinois, especially with them prosecuting like RICO crimes and like real corruption. That is like.
I wonder if New Yorkers ever thought that the person that brought up the RICO charges in New York against the mob would now be in RICO charges.
Right. And they just disappear out of thin air. Like, but also what was crazy to me.
My shows taught me that. I watch a lot of crime shows. That's not how that works.
Mayor Adams was a law enforcement officer at a time and a place. It's like one of the most hilarious things that I've read.
Like.
How did he get there? How he got into office is because he was
but now
I'm wondering. He claimed himself to be a progressive police officer. That's what the claim was.
He's been working since cell phones have been invented. So I just don't know how he don't know that communications over electronics don't just disappear.
Well, it's still TBD who will continue.
Oh, it's on TBD.
Right, TBD, Mayor TBD of New York.
Right.
Okay, so also another thing that came up in the headlines for me is I just kept seeing Instagrams and videos about this interview that Bill Maher has his show.
Yes,
and
I used to watch.
Yeah, a lot of us used to watch.
My bad,
and then he kind of just went left, right. I don't know where he stands now. So
it's very
I think we're all like a little
Some people
confused.
just like where he's at.
This particular interview made it onto my timeline. So Stephanie Rule, who has a show on MSNBC, she was on a panel, and one of those other panelists was Bret Stephens, who is a New York Times columnist and a centrist, I guess. But yeah, so they just had a back and forth, and you can go and see the exchange on.
Yeah, maybe we'll link it.
Basically, Bret Stephens is saying he understands what Trump stands for, what he represents. Never vote for him, but he's still looking to hear more from Kamala and hear more policy and more, especially in particular, international policy, especially with Israel, all the anti-Semitism that's going on. And it's like, okay. And Stephanie Rule, this is why I stand this woman, because she put him in his place. And I love this part because he said, I think this was a week before she actually had the interview with Kamala. And he's like, well, I just think that she needs to go on and do an interview, not a real interview. And guess who a couple of days later did a real interview with Kamala Harris when her first single interview, because the first one was with Tim Walz.
That's grinds in our gears, though. The
but
woman is out here. She's talking to people. You can't be like she's not talking to folks.
She has been saying,
if you don't
know the things,
what she stands for, you're just not listening, or you're not interested.
And you are not. And you're
call it what you don't want to vote for this black woman. Let's just call it what it is.
In terms of the news is supposed to report on things that are happening. So if they're not reporting on what the things that she's doing, that's not her fault. It's not that she's not doing things. presses at every event and rally.
But
I think it's a cop-out.
But
I don't
it's
think
like, it is absolutely a cop-out. And then I heard, I can't remember who I can attribute this to, but I heard a take where it's like, well, Dick Cheney has heard enough of her international policy that he knows who he's voting for. And 100 or 200
Republicans that have worked for previous administrations.
All of the ones that previously worked for him that weren't corrupt.
Yes.
I'm sorry, extremely corrupt, because those other ones were too.
It's just annoying because the bar is so low for Donald Trump. However,
I am going to solve childcare with tariffs.
Make it make sense.
That does to the people that he's talking to, because he knows that if you
concerned with policy,
if you run on like, I want to repeal Obamacare, and you don't have a plan a decade later to the same people, and still using that as part of your running
concepts of a plan.
No, but I'm just saying, I don't think that
we should all use that at work.
I think a plan is. I don't think that that the people that follow him actually care.
They don't, and that's not why they're voting for him. Let's just be real.
This is the thing that I really have an issue with undecided voters who are more progressive or lean more progressive, is because you have people like, okay, Brett Stevens, he's in the middle. He's like, oh, I don't know, how Kamala might think about this, like her Israel policy, or her, what's going to happen with her tax policy. I have a couple $1 million in the bank. I don't want to pay more in taxes. Like, okay, I get
God
that.
Forbid
you don't want to say that out loud.
Pay the same amount that poor people do.
That part.
Exactly. But I'm saying you might not want to say that out loud, but I understand what you're saying. But the undecideds that are on the more progressive side, that are like really side-eyeing Kamala because of some of her more centrist leanings and how she has evolved her policy over the years, and looking at her like she is an equivalent to Donald Trump. But I'm like, okay, you might not hear what you want to hear from Kamala. You might not hear a sharp contrast in the policy rhetoric that you are just equating with each candidate. But look at who supports those candidates. Who is David Duke supporting?
Right.
It's like, how can you be a progressive and to say that you're for Black lives when you go into the voting booth and you are casting the same vote that David Duke would cast?
Correct.
You're casting the same vote of your strongest enemies to Black life and Black progress
are voting for.
Correct. So what do they see in that candidate that you don't see in, like, there's no, like, that's how I think about it. And I'm like, yes, maybe there's a lot of things that all of us could want and need from a ideal candidate.
But can we stop expecting perfection? She's not running for president.
We don't live in Nirvana.
Show me a politician that has presented themselves as perfect on every possible
She's not
issue.
Running for perfect.
That's not, and we don't live in a perfect union. We strive every day to make it more perfect.
And that's what democracy is about.
I think people sometimes seem to get in this thing of like a very much so me type of mentality. Like, I don't want my taxes to go up. I don't think I should have to pay for blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I don't think I should have to be responsible for this, and that. But when the bridge collapses that you need to drive on to get to work, I guess you expect somebody to pay for it. I think a lot of it is really just people who are very selfish, like down to the end of it, extremely selfish.
And it's a little bit like one thing that I keep hearing in all of these comments, even back to when, Joe Biden shouldn't run, he's too old, but we can't all throw our support behind Kamala for some reason. It's really the undertone of misogyny for me.
Well, the other person is old and mentally feeble, so what's the difference? And out of shape.
But can we just call a thing that the misogyny is running rampant?
It's not even just misogyny.
It's not. It's a lot of things. However,
it's racism and misogyny.
Exactly. But to sit here and say like, I don't know where Kamala stands, and
just say that you don't want to vote for a Black woman. Don't just say that.
But there's plenty of people who have said it. And then the way that they say it is they say, there's no way a black woman gonna really win, or we don't think anybody would vote for black women. That's their way of saying like we don't see it.
No. Well, I mean that's the blatant way, but also
it's a lot of
the same message comes from, well, I don't know her policy.
It does.
But, so
if you read or listen or just can like follow a bullet point, you don't even got to read a whole sentence. Like you could see what she stands for. If you are purposely being obtuse, then that's no one's fault but yours, and you can't use that as an excuse.
I mean, she repeats it on a loop. Sometimes I get a little bit like, sometimes
she has to keep
in some of her interviews. If I do feel like I think she's doing a great job of like bringing home the point and communicating her points and her policies. To sometimes I'm like, okay, but Kamala, just like give us answer the question. Like, don't just run your. Sometimes it sounds like she's on the campaign trail.
She is.
Right.
In the interviews when I want her to just answer and just be authentic. And not to say see her
a little less having to like continuously repeat things and be able to be a little more herself.
You're just not listening because I'm hearing it too much. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, Kamala, like I know, sis. We gonna get the 50,000 tax credit.
Yeah, but my biggest issue when we're talking about undecided voters is that I think it's a nice way to put a bow on something. That's not an actual thing. There's a very few amount of people who aren't decided, and for what reason you wouldn't have picked a decision between preserving democracy and not, or taking women's rights and not,
because
or wanting to kill like black people protesting for a man that was killed by police. You want to just shoot them down or call National Guard on American citizens. I'm just saying, I don't think that there's really a point of being undecided. I think those are people that don't want to tell you who they're voting for or feel ashamed to say, I'd rather vote for a reality star who's a bigot and an idiot because he's entertaining, as opposed to voting for a qualified black woman because I don't know, I don't trust women.
Period. Because I was going to say the answer is actually not that nuanced. Just no one wants to say it out loud.
Yeah. Moving on to our main topic.
Well, the last headline was going to segue into the main topic, I think.
The last headline, so it's been in the news and on social media.
Because it's about to get a little heavy.
So the last headline we're going to go, and that kind of segues into like our main topic that we were going to talk about is a execution that took place. Actually, there were a couple that had taken place over the past week or 2 weeks. But most recently, a inmate by the name of Marcellus Williams was executed by lethal injection in Missouri for a crime that he, to his last breath, contend that he did not commit. And there was a lot of opposition to him being executed because of the lack of evidence and there's a lot of questions around the jury and the family of the person who he was accused of killing. Did not want to see him executed. So in terms of the death penalty and just
also the prosecutor didn't want to see him. Or is it the prosecutor? The prosecutor also tried to fight for this day.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it really is, I mean, Marcellus Williams is a black man. It is a modern day lynching in 2024. So it's been a topic of conversation, especially with the upcoming election. But one thing that I really want to stress, like at the top, is this was a state prosecution. State actors, the governor, the attorney general, elected legislators are responsible for things that happen within the state, like convictions of murders, like sentencing, along with judges. Some judges are elected by the public, some are appointed by the governor and the legislature.
Which is why it's still important that you vote for the people who are going to appoint them as well.
Who are, exactly. All of it matters in elections. So a group of people, I guess, who are not, directly tied or responsible for state-sanctioned executions are federal officials. One being the president. And I think I've seen a lot of through lines from Kamala, especially her position as a prosecutor, as a district and state's attorneys general, and a position, like all I hear all the time is Kamala's a cop. Kamala's a cop. And it's like, first of all, this is annoying. But second of all, like, you know, she in her role as vice president and president will have no say over how Missouri or South Carolina or Oklahoma or Alabama conduct their criminal justice proceedings. That is not something that is within the jurisdiction of the federal government. Now, if you're talking about a federal crime, and also Kamala or Joe Biden, for that matter, could not have pardoned Marcellus Williams.
Exactly.
The only person that could have granted a pardon would have been that motherfucker in Missouri, whose name escapes me because he's one of the most horrible governors in the country. But to say that the death penalty carried out in some of these states more recently, after decades of the death penalty being dormant for whatever reason, and equating that to the fact that you're just another check mark against Kamala, that is disingenuous at best and just propaganda.
Yeah, I think anyone making that argument just doesn't even have a basic understanding of, like we were saying earlier, civics and
I just think they really just like to say stuff. Like there's there's certain people who just,
that seems like
you could be like, the traffic light is out in front of my house and somebody hit my car and they be like, see, because Kamala, like in her last 4 years, she could have done something about this. But the irony that I find when people make that comment about whatever topic it is that they pick, about, well, why did she do nothing about it in the last 4 years?
Right.
I am just curious because we're not talking about her running against someone who's never been in office before. We're talking about someone who actually was the president for 4 years and who did everything in his power to do everything that was not in the president's power, period, and got away with them.
To strip as many rights and as many...
he committed so many crimes in there that he picked the people for the Supreme Court so they could try to alleviate him of getting prosecuted.
Well, unfortunately, that wasn't a crime, but that's a topic for another day.
It is the Supreme Court is related to this.
Well, and so is Mitch McConnell, because they purposefully did not let Barack Obama pick one for an entire year of his last presidency.
Yeah. But Mitch McConnell, but again, that's why our senators matter. Mitch McConnell is a senator.
I'm so tired of Turtle. I really wish he would just be replaced. What we know is that party doesn't care because we see a sundown in Grandpa every moment on the news.
Right.
So why? I don't know why we're seeing so much.
In Grandpa.
Very much so. The sundown in Grandpa you can't leave your kids in the room with because you're afraid. They'd be like, no. But we can't visit Grandpa like that. You have to wave from the car at Grandpa. We can't let Grandpa be in the same room with you because we are concerned.
But didn't they appeal this case to the Supreme Court?
Yes, and the Supreme Court voted to say,
yes.
Exactly.
Which is my point. Again, for people who say that like they don't know what she has to offer, it would be different if we were talking about if her running against someone who we had no actual like definite idea of what they would do.
Exactly.
We've seen it. This is the same person when people were protesting saying, why can't we just shoot them all in the knees? Like, why can't we just shoot them all?
Kamala has been, and this is what irritates me too about people opposing the death penalty. Kamala has been against the death penalty since her very first election. She got a lot of political heat for it. They thought that it would have ruined her political career. It didn't, because apparently she's very resilient, and the voters really like the fact that, first of all, she ran on the fact that she was against the death penalty, and she continued to act on that promise in office. How many elected officials had promised to do one thing in the campaign trail and switch their entire position? That hasn't been Kamala, at least on the death penalty.
She's not even running against a person who has like also feels the same way or could possibly feel the same way. We definitely know where her alternative stands.
Right.
He's at the point where he would like to kill people that don't agree with him.
Yes.
And has said it.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, it's not even like it's apples and oranges, but it's like apples in a fucking Big Mac at this point. Like there's no comparison.
These are not foods. These are not even two foods. There's an apple and there's an idiot. And then we're talking about an apple and an idiot. And people want to be like, I mean, I get that an apple is an apple and that is nutritious, but I don't know all the things about the tannins in the skin of the apple. So I think I need to hear more from this apple.
But yeah, Kamala has been against the death penalty since her time as district attorney. And she made that very clear when she declined to seek the death penalty for a person who is currently in jail without parole, because she declined to seek the death penalty, and the man killed a police officer. And she got a lot of flack for it. She got so much heat.
Well, I think people find selective outrage over things when they want to pick one person and make them.
We didn't know that you meant we was down with your anti-death penalty stance, but now when it comes to killing cops, like no,
right.
But no, she stood her ground in that. She got a lot of heat from the family, from everybody.
Will blow up an abortion clinic. So I just think that's just. That is America. It's a very it gives a mob mentality.
The death penalty.
It gives retribution. It gives necessary need to see someone being punished on display for all people to enjoy. And I think that's really what the sick undertone is. And that's no matter if it's right or wrong, you pick a person and make them be the example of why you should not do this on the grandest of scales to scare the shit out of everybody else, regardless. And it has nothing to do about safety. And that's why I think it's a modern day.
I agree with the modern day lynching. So I was in South Carolina when Khalil Divine Black Son Allah was executed by lethal injection in South Carolina on September 20th. And I was just doing stuff in the house, and my mother had on the news, and like a regular Friday night.
On the news?
It would, the readout. I can't remember who the white gentleman was that was getting this literally second by second report of his reactions, his words to, like, of course, because I don't think cameras are permitted to be in there. But it was like literally a play-by-play. It was setting the scene so vividly. And I'm in here getting my pizza Friday. I'm getting the pizza, and I'm like I'm like, it's on the news, like regular TV. This readout of him mouthing to his family what they think his last words were, the family, the look on their face. And it's like really trying to paint a picture with words. And I'm like, why are we doing this?
Given the modern day public square.
It was heartbreaking. It was public. Yes. Very. I don't think that that's what we as Americans are in a case where
I don't think we should be playing God. I just don't think we should be playing God.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's one thing to say that there should be consequences for people's actions,
right?
Especially if their actions are cause a harm or detriment or something to someone else, especially if it's intentional.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's something to be said about wanting to feel like you have the thumb over someone's every bit of existence because they did something bad, whether it's the correctional officers, whether it's...
And you don't know for sure.
Well, I'm just saying...
And there's flawed DNA.
Especially in such an imperfect system.
Well,
exactly. Our justice system is so flawed.
Well, anything that's imperfect, you shouldn't be making final decisions. And by that, I mean things that you cannot come back from.
Exactly.
It's bad enough when you have people who've been incarcerated for 30, 40 years for something that they didn't do. Get exonerated.
There's a piece of evidence that we
who get exonerated
came to the surface.
It's not always a piece of evidence that just came into the surface. It's like
the testing, the DNA testing,
we didn't care.
Forensics has improved over the years.
Or we found out, and because we found out, that would cause us to have to look at a whole bunch of other stuff, which is a big inconvenience. And maybe realize we did some wrong stuff to other people. So instead of admitting this one wrong, we'll get you to settle and not say nothing, or we just won't admit the wrong and ever, and you can just continue being punished for something that you didn't do. I think a lot of that is that once you admit that you had somebody doing something wrong, you got to revisit a lot of that. And a lot of people are like, that's going to make all of us look bad. We can't do that.
Yeah, but as we know, race and economics play a huge role in the disproportionate number of people who are sentenced to the death penalty in general. And I don't know, for me, when I just thought about that this week,
breaks your heart.
It does, because for us to be such an advanced society or an advanced nation in this world, and for us to still be executing people, is just prehistoric to me, and I don't understand.
I think I have a more cynical view.
Well,
because I don't think we're that. I don't think we're that far along.
For us to be
here in terms of how we look at individuals, not at all.
No, I mean, I don't think so. Yeah, correct. I agree with you in that nature. But what I'm saying is we're one of the most industrialized nations for sure. I just don't understand why we are like, and I'm not the most versed on this topic, but how many other countries in the world are executing people like this?
Not a lot of nations are even still locking people up at the rate at which they lock people up here.
Right.
And keeping them for the crimes that they keep them here. And even how we treat people who are in jail, because there's not amount of programs in which that they had even in the jails and prison systems years ago have been taken out, so that way people have a higher rate of recidivism to go back in. That's because it's a free working class, right?
Yeah.
You get to have them in there. You get to make them clean up the facilities. You get to make them serve food to each other. You get to make them make stuff and fix shit and do whatever else that whatever other private companies want to pay for there.
Well, yeah, because we have privatized the prison system.
When we're talking about industrial system, it's a prison industrial system.
Right. So I think that segues into, our call to actions. But one thing that I will, say as we move into that is 27 states currently have the death penalty as a form of
capital punishment
for criminals that are convicted of certain crimes. And those people who are keeping those laws on the books are state legislators and governors, and the attorney generals are the people who are prosecuting or heading up the prosecutions of these crimes that will seek the death penalty. So those are all state elections, and those are important too. If you care about the death penalty, what you really care about is
your state election.
Your state election. You really want to do something, Jen. What can we do?
Okay, wow.
We know what we can do. We can vote, but let her tell you how we get there.
I have a few ways that people can get involved. So obviously we're here in the DMV. So we are actually in between two. I don't really consider Virginia a swing state anymore. It's like a purple state, but
that's swing.
Yeah. But it's different there. But that's okay.
I mean, it's definitely different.
Okay.
You can say that, especially depending on the part you in. It's real different.
We know. But shouts out to BA. To do something that I have for you coming up this Wednesday, if you are local and don't mind driving a little ways in York, Pennsylvania, I think in connection with Black Women for Harris, there is a canvassing rally going on in York, Pennsylvania from 12 to 6 p.m. We will provide the link in our description if you want to sign up and get a friend, get two friends, and just go up there. I myself plan to try and make it because Pennsylvania is a key state to the path to victory for Kamala. So that's one thing. Obviously, there are multiple ways you can get involved from your home. You can phone bank, you can text message, there are postcards. And then there was a really cool thing I saw from Win with Black Women called like a Toolkit for One. And I love this concept because it's basically like, you yourself can organize your group of 10 and make a voting plan. And it's basically like you yourself pick 10 people you're going to be responsible for. And I'll also provide the link because they provide all the resources you need to do this. But you can get your 10 together. You can confirm everyone's registered to vote because, they do cleanse the voter rolls in certain states and whatnot.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I have something I want to add on to the end of that.
So step one in that toolkit is obviously confirm everyone's registered to vote. Know where you're going to vote. And then also know what's on your ballot from top to bottom. And so have a party, get together, have a political pour up like we do, and look over what's on the ballot and what you're going to be voting for, who you're going to be voting for, where they stand. And so that's just some of our ways you can get involved.
So, plus 1,000 to that if you are looking for just general voting information, vote.org is very comprehensive for all states. You can get a lot of the deadline information for your particular state, the deadline to register, when they expect to be mailing out absentee and vote by mail ballots, and get information on where your polling place is. Make sure all of your information is verified by where you currently live, like a new address, if you recently moved. If you have any questions about anything having to do with the vote process, a number that you can call or text is 866-ROUR VOTE, VOTE, and the great people on the election protection hotline will be able to help you out and make sure that you're able to cast your vote in the way that you want. And one last thing I will say, because Jazz is going to talk about this for a second, but we've seen and heard about a lot of voter suppression efforts, especially in the swing states, especially the states in the South. And one thing that I've been hearing is, where can I report those things that are happening? And I would like to direct anyone who has a report of potential voter suppression, go to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund website. They have a form that you can fill out and give details about what is going on in that area, and they are keeping record of it. And, you know, I've heard some wild stuff. I was going to
say, I thought you just this week attacked it.
In Alabama, but Jasmine said something.
In North Carolina, they just passed something within the last couple of days to purge, which was started by a Republican in Wake County who filed a complaint in court, and now has had over like 700,000 or 800,000 North Carolinians removed. So I do believe
check your voting status. You can do that at vote.org. They will direct you exactly to where you need to go.
Also, I understand that, I don't know if people, then depending on what part of North Carolina, can actually hear us currently, but hopefully if you get a chance to hear this, you can go ahead and take that action, because I know that with the hurricane devastation, there's a lot of places underwater and a lot of places with tornado damage,
and that is
like with places where we all have family from.
And that is
so, and I know that also will play a role in what people are able to look up, what people are able to do. I understand that if your city is filled with mud and sludge and water,
voting
maybe
is the
you
last
can't
thing on your mind,
get around as easily. But if you know, I know that there's always constantly things happening, but we do need people to really understand that it's as simple as, anytime somebody tells you that you don't have to vote, if you vote now, you don't have to vote again, or actually we don't even need your vote. And then you start seeing all of these laws and cases come about, even in Georgia, where the election board changed the laws around it. And I believe the state legislator told them that they were pretty sure it was illegal, and they did it anyway. Against the advice of a lot of people on both sides of the issue. Right. I mean, I think we need to understand that the idea is to make people not show up, make it so difficult that they can't, and then scare them so that they won't, because they're inciting people to come to polls to watch, and intimidate, not watch, but come to intimidate. So please, if you're seeing any of those things come up in your state, even if you're hearing about them, again, please make sure that you're going to NAACP Legal Defense Fund and reporting it, because we need some kind of way to combat it. And we know that if they have the chance to, we'll probably have to be sitting through a long Supreme Court issue about voting. And again, telling on our age, I remember the Al Gore Bush thing, and
hopefully it won't come down to a couple hundred overseas military votes.
It wasn't then. They just didn't count stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were like, yeah, we'll just stop counting. But so yes,
I mean, absolutely switch it up on you.
So there's something that all of us can do. Yes. So yes,
I'm like,
that is all so important. There's something that we all can do. So just do something. So I guess that will wrap it up for us this week. We'll be back next week. Oh my gosh. Who's excited for the debate on Tuesday? Oh shit! I am so ready to see Coach Walls take JD Vance.
Wait, are we getting JD? Are we getting Joseph David? Are we getting Joseph D. Vance? Who are we getting? Are we getting the hillbilly? Are we getting the tech guy? Are we getting the husband of immigrants?
Who's coming?
Are we getting somebody who calls his mother-in-law off work to watch their kids?
We'll see. Who wants to bang? He's gonna have those multicultural kids on stage with him.
Is he not gonna let her show up looking like a corpse? Because the last time he had on stage, she had on makeup. She looked disheveled. It was given Stockholm.
Okay. Well,
it was given I am here, but maybe I just blink twice to tell you I'm not.
Right. I was like, Usha, just blink twice if you need help.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. I just think it's something to be said about people whose wives are never around.
Well, next episode, we will talk about our readout from the debate, and which is likely to be the last opposing debate that we'll get this election cycle, since Don refuses the debate.
I mean, he's probably busy helping his wife sell her coffee book table of her nudes. So,
all right, bye.
It's a busy week. It is art. It is fashion.
It is.
But it has no fashion.
Oh, no. But we'll save it for next time, because I did have a point to make about that.
But you've never seen somebody break their life story in a coffee table book. What you got in there? Pictures? Just say it.
Okay, bye.
I'm going to write my life story in a coffee table book. It's going to be pictures. It's going to be lit.